Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this video is titled Flight Safety International Tales of a Military, Civilian, and Airline Instructor. Now, I've got many thousands of hours as a military instructor. That's how I started out. And then as a civilian flight instructor, and then later as a airline flight instructor, as a line check airman giving training in the 727, the Airbus, and the 777. Now, airline training, like military training, is very thorough, very intense, very structured, and is an excellent product. And what Flight Safety International does in my brief tenure with them in the early 80s was to bring, and it still does, airline instruction, quality of instruction to the general civilian aviation community. Now, Flight Safety International has the same full motion simulators that we did in the airlines. In the military, they also now have full motion simulators, but when I was in the military starting out, they didn't, and everything was welded to the ground. So, full motion simulator is much more of an improvement because you get all the physical responses and the feelings and things like this. So it's a quality way to do it. Now, I worked at Cessna Wallace at the time in the piston side, and flight safety at the time gave instruction in Cessna twin piston aircraft such as the 340, the 421, the 414, aircraft of that nature. So pilots who were flying those aircraft could come to flight safety and receive the same sort of high quality airline instruction that I had received. And as far as the safety enhancement, this is really a great idea. Now, this is back in the early 80s, and these type of programs were just getting started. The insurance companies were requiring it, and we were getting pilots coming in who had never been through this sort of training before. I was in my 30s, and my first student was a pilot who was 60 years old, had 13,000 hours of flight time, had flown extensively DC 3s and other aircraft. So I'm thinking, well, this guy's going to do really well. And we, of course, had a thorough briefing, talked about the instrument procedures we were going to fly, various maneuvers, and also about some engine failures. And we get in the simulator, of course, we get started. Now, simulators don't fly like aircraft. Um, they never have, and they probably never will, because there's always little subtle differences you can't perfectly duplicate. So we have a little period where, we go up and fly. You get used to the simulator, so you kind of get used to handling. We start out easy shooting some instrument approaches, and now we move towards the end of the sim session, and I'm going to give him a few engine failure procedures. Now, these are briefed. I even tell him which engine's going to fail, and we do the takeoff. We get to 500 feet, and he knows the procedure. Fly the airplane, identify, verify, feather, fly the aircraft. So I give him a failure of an engine at 500 feet, and he ends up losing control of the aircraft and crashing. Okay, well, not so good. Maybe it's first time in the simulator. Uh, we'll go back. We'll reset. Let's brief this again. You're going to lose this engine. This is what you want to do. Really setting them up that, it's going to be this foot, this throttle, all this stuff. It's more than you get, of course, in the real world. That's the way things don't work like that in the real world. Nobody tells you which engine you're going to lose. So we go up at 1,000 feet. I give him an engine failure, and we lose control and crash. Okay, well, this isn't so good. Well, let's put that aside for a little bit. Let's go up and we'll do some other things. So uh, he's told that you fly this like you would fly any mission. You've got to be aware of what's going on in your surroundings. So we're up at 8,000 feet. Put it on the autopilot. We're flying around a little bit, and we're handling it's a pneumatic emergency or something, or pneumatic irregularity. It wasn't even a very serious situation, and I failed the autopilot. And from 8,000 feet, we just start a long, slow spiral into the ground. And I try to give him a few hints, of, what's the airplane doing, stuff like that. We end up crashing. And I'm scratching my head. I'm going, man, what's going on here? This guy has so much more experience in flight time than me, and he's doing this. So Stop the simulator. It was the end of the session. We're going to go out and debrief, and we're going to do a little more flying in just a little bit after we take a break. So the little walkway comes down, open the door. We're starting out. He puts up his hand and he stops me and says, "You know, the only reason I'm alive is because I've never lost an engine and I've never lost the autopilot." And that's when I knew I could work with this guy. And, you know, I had, probably over 10 engine failures at the time. A lot of them were in flight tests, not all of them, but I had had a number of engine failures. So for me, an engine failure wasn't a big deal at all. But I'm thinking, okay, I can work with this guy. We went back, we briefed, and the whole concept of this is when you take off and you get airborne and you say, okay, there's no way I can stop in the remaining runway. You put the gear handle up and you're going. So the point where you put the gear handle up is the point where the engine can fail on you. So that can actually fail before that, but your decision gets more complicated. But anyway, that was the major thing, that when you put the gear handle up, it tells me that you're ready to fly, and that's when the engine's going to fail, and that's what we worked to. So I worked with this guy, and he could take the engine failure higher, and we kept on working lower and lower, and it got to the point where as soon as he put that gear handle up, I killed the engine and he flew beautifully. So it really showed me how important this training was and how valuable it was. And I'm sure flight safety has saved many, many lives by giving this quality of training. So it's really great. We're bringing airline quality training down to the civilian market, and it's enhancing safety, I'm sure. So anyway, thanks for listening for my brief tale of working at flight safety many, many years ago. Thanks for watching.